felt it.
Wait, hello?
Oh, I felt
Greater
I felt it would resonate with
Oh,
us.
are we only doing
It's
four?
opening?
Is this a four-person panel?
Yes, that was the intention of.
Oh, you sure? You want to have 6 people, 9 people, 12 people? Holy shit! I'm
No.
sorry. Oh, I thought we were waiting for more people. Sorry, I'm here. What's up?
No, you're totally fine. Here's the deal. So last week we had 8 people, or 7 people, excuse me. The goal was actually only to have 6, and 7 was too many. I felt like it was really hard to get into the nuance of a lot of the conversation, and so the goal was this week to like really shrink the size like pretty dramatically, so as to promote more conversation, make it more easy for like actual back and forths without other people needing to jump in, or for any people to feel like I'm trying to save people by interjecting to make sure that the conversation goes smoothly. So we're trying to look for the sweet spot. I originally intended for 6. I'm going to try 4. I think right now 3 people. There should be a 4th, but they ran into some issues in the last second. So I probably should start over planning for this. But it's a work in progress. So Hake said at the very beginning that he thinks that he said that he believes that the word insurrection is completely overblown by the media. I hope I'm not misrepresenting you. I think he said the word insurrection was completely overblown by the media. He said that there wasn't particularly violence on January 6th. There was a shot that was one. There was only one shot, and he said that there was some unprovoked like pushing and aggression towards officers. But then some officers also had unprovoked aggression towards protesters, and that January 6th in general was a peaceful protest. Do you feel like that's a fair representation of what you were saying thus far, Hake?
Yeah, mostly peaceful protests, which is kind of a troll of what they do with the Black Lives Matter riots and protests. If those were mostly peaceful protests, then so was January 6th.
Okay. Ignoring January 6th, so then maybe you don't feel that the riots were mostly peaceful protests,
The riot portion of it was not exactly peaceful, but there were people there even amidst all of that. Some people who were going into the Capitol building, like a 72-year-old woman and a 49-year-old grandmother followed her in, and she was charged. She followed her in to, according to her, protect the 72-year-old woman going into the Capitol. I don't think those could be fairly described as rioters.
Could I ask a question about that, or are we just on clarifying parts?
Well, before we do that, Destiny, do you feel that the phrase insurrection is fair, or do you feel like that's overblown, or do you think that's appropriate? I know you tend to be a little bit more nuanced in these things. Do you disagree with the word insurrection? How would you label it?
Yeah, I don't typically use the word insurrection. I think that's a little bit too loaded. But I'm going to super disagree with the other parts of the characterization that were made here.
Okay. And lastly, I guess we're still waiting on Missy to be available. She's working on her video, I believe, but she has audio, right, Missy? Okay, maybe not that either. Okay, she said she was running into some issues, so we'll just try to keep it going until she's available.
Wait, I'm so curious. I have to ask a question. Why not just do everything on Discord? Why not just use Discord?
I guess because it's just the way that Discord does video. It just looks pretty dumb overall.
Are you sure?
It has in the past.
Okay,
But
I implore you, because all of you politics guys, you all use like 15 other websites. Just try using Discord. It should look fine. Oh, or maybe this is my privilege showing. You can pay for like a higher quality Discord server. I think, right? Isn't it like $5 or $10 a month or something? I don't remember. But like, it just seems easier to coordinate everything on Discord rather than having people join all these other chats. But maybe that's just me being a little baby. I don't know. But anyway, okay.
Oh, I didn't know that was possible. I mean, I paid a gang of money for StreamYard for a year.
Oh shit. Well, then if you're gonna pay money for something, yeah, just fucking pay Discord. Fuck it. But
that's something I might have to look for. I didn't even know. I'm not. I guess that's something I wish I had known beforehand. But it's not too late. We'll probably switch over to that.
Sure. All right. Well, what's up?
Anyway, so you disagreed with some other takes. You don't like the word insurrection, but you disagree with other takes. What were the other takes?
So, do you want me to get my position, or can I ask him about his position? What exactly? Wait, what's
First, give me your position fully, and then you can.
So I think that it was a uniquely horrible event in U.S. history because I think it was a protest turned riot that was ultimately kind of led by the misinformation coming from the President of the United States. And I think that misinformation was an attempt to undermine arguably one of our most important institutions, which is, I guess, like the sanctity of voting in the United States. And that's why I think that it was a uniquely horrible, bad event that was just really bad. But calling it like an insurrection and everything gets in other territory that I think is harder to justify. And I don't really think is that important to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, the labeling is not particularly important. Oof. Okay. So what about the characterization that it was mostly peaceful, and that there was just some people that were showing undue aggression against peaceful protesters, and there were officers were showing.
So the officers weren't showing undue aggression. That's anybody that's saying that just didn't watch all the videos. So that's going to be a hard argument to have because you just haven't seen everything if that's what you think. The big part, calling an individual protest mostly peaceful is a weird way to use the English language, and I don't think we talk about any event like that typically. So for instance, if I go to the bar and I get in a fight with somebody and I kill somebody, I don't think I could ever get away with saying, well, last night at the bar was mostly peaceful. If I spent 2 hours at the bar chatting and having a good time and 10 seconds murdering somebody, I think people would say that was a really violent night at the bar. I can't say, well, the majority of the time at the bar was peaceful and then it just got violent at the end. They'd be like, no, that's... Now, if you're talking 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 different visits to a bar, then you might say, yeah, his bar visits are mostly peaceful with one violent event. So I think it's kind of weird to characterize a riot, a protest turned riot, as that particular protest was mostly peaceful until the end. Well, that means that particular protest was a riot. It became a riot. So I think that's kind of a weird way to play. I think we're kind of playing games with language there so that we can escape the consequences of what actually happened, or facing the consequences of what actually happened. If anybody's talking, I can't hear anybody. I don't know if that's on my end or your end.
No, we're just waiting for her to get that straight.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I can respond if you want, Fanatic.
So it's frantic. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so my audio is through the Discord and my video is through the streamer, correct?
Yep. That's what the goal is.
Yeah, I think I got it. Yay! Oh, 10 minutes of wrestling myself. What's up, guys?
Not much, hanging out.
As I saw. So I heard a bit of what you guys were discussing about. Can you guys touch more real quick?
I caught the last part of what you just said. You heard a bit of what we had to discuss, and then the last part was a little blurry.
I said you guys were discussing the January 9/11. You know that? The January 6th stuff?
Yes, correct.
Goodness. I just lost video. It's just not my day, is it, guys? Well, I'm just gonna jump off a roof. I swear, it's just been a day.
Yeah, well, don't do that. But
no, that seems too easy. I don't trust it. Okay, allow. So I need to mute the audio here. Enter studio. How's that now?
the audio sounds okay. It's a bit loud, but it's okay.
So how's it going? Hi, I'm Missy. Nice to meet y'all.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh wow, I just said something crazy on the stream. That's crazy. Good thing my mic wasn't working. All right, so, Hake, did you have a response? I got very distracted.
Are you okay? What did you read?
No. I didn't read anything.
I think he said something slipped out of his mouth, but his mic was not on.
What'd you say?
Yeah,
I heard that
God
too.
is good. Because God is good. It didn't need to be repeated. That was why.
I thought we were having grown-up talk tonight.
We are having a talk. Okay, so let's see if we can try to get this thing working from this point on. All right, we're still waiting. Let me know when you're back in the StreamYard, and then yeah, we'll move forward. Oh no, it's still tripping. This is too much. I can't. Oh God. Okay.
Yeah.
What was the last thing that you said, Destiny? I'm sorry, I'm losing track at this point.
I think it was a riot. I wouldn't characterize a riot as mostly peaceful if it became a riot at the end. This gets a little bit semantical. I just think people try to use these words to escape the consequence of what happened, of understanding what happened.
I see. I guess there was a comparison made between like Black Lives Matter riots or protests in general, and saying that those things have been characterized as mostly peaceful.
Yeah, because
Um,
most protests were peaceful, but the ones that were riots, I wouldn't say it was mostly peaceful until it was a riot. I would say it was a riot. So, for instance, it's almost certainly the case that the majority of the protests in like Kenosha were peaceful. It's almost certainly the case. However, not all of them were, and it only takes a few riots to do a ton of damage to a city. So, I wouldn't characterize 2 days of rioting as most of the people there and most of the protesters were peaceful. I would say they were riots because it doesn't appear to be peaceful when there's so much damage and everything caused. It's a weird way to characterize it.
Hake, see your smile, and it seems like you pretty much understand that to be true, right? Like it's more of a semantic game of comparison, right?
Not entirely. I mean, he is right that that many of the people in Kenosha were not participating in the violence, but there was still a riot. But you saw on CNN there were purportedly normal reporters at CNN saying, "Oh, it's fiery, but it's mostly peaceful over here," right in front of a burning building, and that was not Kenosha specifically. And so, like, there was maybe 100,000 people, I don't know how many, over at the Capitol. People who went into the building were mulling around. There were some who were getting out of control and acting up. And so that aspect of it is a riot. But he said that you can't say that the cops were not aggressing against the protesters or the rioters or whatever. But Elijah Schaffer, who was there and recording that day, said that one thing that got the people riled was a cop pushed somebody who was climbing up a wall off of that wall, and he fell down a far distance, and that got the people riled.
Was he trespassing?
I suppose he was. But
and if a police officer is there defending federal property and another person is trespassing, is the police officer upping the aggression when he's responding to the other person trespassing? That doesn't seem to be a fair way to summarize or characterize the police officer's actions, no?
In Elijah Schaffer's, the way that he described it and the way that he read it, he felt that the officer was out of line.
Sure, I'm not asking Elijah Schaffer. I'll ask you. It's a red-blooded American, okay? I'm from Nebraska, 30 years. I like guns, okay? If somebody is barging into my house and I shove that person out of my house, okay? And or I see somebody climbing my fence, trying to get in my backyard, my kids are playing back there, and I push them off of my fence, right? Or if a police officer who's tasked with defending federal property and lawmakers is trying to protect that property and somebody's trying to trespass, is the police officer pushing them off of that? Is that unnecessary? That seems to be like the first step, the first level of necessary, I guess, defense against a trespasser. So I'm confused by what's...
I would be with you on that if that's how we treated rioters in general, but they gave people room to destroy in Black Lives Matter. So yes, you're right. It is justified.
Yeah,
it may be justified.
Yeah, let's ask that. So when we say they gave people room in Black Lives Matter protesting, did they not also let people into the Capitol in the same way?
Yeah, and those people were far less destructive in the Capitol than
sure. So wait, we're not going to do you say something and then I say that it's wrong, and then you go, okay. So
I'll do that.
But that's dishonest. Okay, right? That's not honest, right? So when you tried to say earlier that you're trying to make this characterization that they treated BLM differently. They let them riot, but they didn't with the January 6th protesters. If you were going to say they
didn't, I didn't say they didn't. I just said that the cops did some unprovoked things.
Well, but but provocation is trying to trespass. Is that not provoking?
In that case, fine, I grant you that.
Okay.
But there was a case where the crowd had calmed down already, and according to Elijah Schaffer, an honest journalist we all know, they fired, I don't know what they fired into the crowd, whether it was smoke bombs or tear gas or what.
It was tear gas.
Mm-hmm.
And the crowd had already calmed down, and many of the right wingers in general.
Was the crowd given orders to disperse?
Maybe so.
So if the crowd was given what we would say is probably a lawful order to disperse, and they're not doing so, then just like we saw happen with BLM protests, would we not then expect the police officers to use some sort of crowd control, tear gas, or other types of smoke grenades or whatever? Like, wouldn't we expect that to happen?
Maybe so, but it was in Elijah Schaffer's mind, which he was there, I wasn't there, no, neither were you. It was ill-advised because they had already calmed down. Because the right-wingers are generally self-policing. They calm their aggressive.
Self-police their way
down.
all the way into the Capitol building. No,
This was one incident out of many incidents.
Okay,
Generally,
hold on,
right-wing protests are not
that was
violent.
a good line of thought. I think we're going down a good.
Wait. Just I know. Just really quickly, because the one thing that I do want to focus on is specifically January 6th. Like I really
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like
what we're
it
talking
almost
about.
will take the. But I don't want the conversation to really kind of center around BLM or any other organizations or any other sorts of violent riots or violent protests, because this is an indictment of those things. Otherwise, we can end up going down a rabbit hole trying to defend BLM or trying to like argue about whether or not BLM was actually violent or not, or so on and so forth. But just focusing on the merits specifically of January 6th itself, would you say that there were protesters there that shouldn't have been? And that were there protesters aggressing against the Capitol, and were the police officers defending that, or the Capitol Police defending that?
Yes, and the double standard is important. It brings a lot of light to the situation.
What can't we just can't we both come together and say it was bad when BLM rioted and it was bad when Republicans rioted? Can't we just say that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you agree that January 6th was at the very least a bad event that they rioted at, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't rioting in any form like not good? I mean, even like in the 60s when they had problems like with protests and things like that, there were also like repercussions that came from that as well. There were issues with soldiers having morale problems. As a matter of fact, I watched a documentary today on a soldier that got the Medal of Honor, and he was talking about how when they talked to him at the first space meeting, he would speak in front of these 1960s Vietnam protesters, that they said, "We're not attacking the warrior, we're attacking the war." And they want to make it very clear that what they were up against wasn't each other. It wasn't him as a person. It was protesting the problems that were going on. And I think that we can come together and agree in the middle that that's exactly what's happening now. I don't think that we're fighting each other. I think that we're fighting, all the things, all the tyranny, all the problems. I mean, God, like our country, we've had some problems for a while, and causing a riot or storming the Capitol building obviously has not helped. It just made things worse. So I mean, we have to figure out a way to come together. We have to figure out a way to understand each other, because if we don't, the repercussions are just catastrophic.
Okay, I love that, but let me ask you this really quickly, because we didn't get your take at the very beginning of this because you're having a few technical issues. Would you classify January 6th as a riot, as an insurrection, or how exactly do you define it? Do you feel it's being overblown by the media? How exactly do you think it should be framed?
Consider it more of a coming together of people. No, I'm just kidding. Like, that was legit. Like, I could say, it just depends. I mean, it's all about which position you're in. I hate fence riders. I hate mealy mouthed, fence sitters. But I'm gonna say right now, like that's a situation where I was not there. I have friends that were there. I have a friend of mine right now that's been sentenced to 30 days because he's going to have to go to jail for walking in the building after a police officer let him in with a smile. And he's like, I didn't even realize what I was doing. I didn't understand the repercussions of this. I've never done this before. He's like, it's like the second rally thing I'd ever been to. I didn't know what was going on, because I definitely wasn't trying to hurt anybody or kill anyone.
To be super clear, that doesn't matter, right? Would we ever allow that excuse? Like, I didn't know I was breaking the law?
You're absolutely correct. Intentions don't matter, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for the company that you keep. You know what they say about one bad apple, and unfortunately, that's true in our society as well. Like, you can't just let something go. In South Carolina, we have this thing called the hand of one is the hand of all. That means that anyone who's in the car and there's drugs found, everyone goes to jail. It doesn't matter that it's not yours. It doesn't matter that it wasn't even on your person. All that matters is you were in the car together. You ride together, you die together. That's how it works, with the law at least. And I guess you could say it was a riot. I mean, I don't like that word, because I feel like there were a lot of little old ladies that got pushed into doing something stupid because they didn't understand. And I feel like my friend didn't understand, not because he's not smart, just feel like he underestimated the people he was doing business with. He didn't understand, like, the QAnon crazy people were there. He didn't understand that, like, there were people that were going to commit violence. I don't think he got that, because he legitimately was like caught up in the concept of like, we're doing something together. Like, because the speeches that Trump gave, the speeches that people give, it incites this feeling of belonging to something. And if anything, we all are suffering to find somewhere to belong. And I don't want to like say that word, because then I have to say that, my friend is a bad person and he's not. But yeah, I'm gonna call it a riot. I hate doing that, but I'm gonna call it a riot because any time that you do something you're not supposed to do, anytime that you couldn't walk into my house, right? Without expecting to go to jail, correct?
Yep.
So why do we think we can walk into the house, even though it's the people's house? It doesn't matter. There are rules, and without rules, society falls apart. And I'm gonna call it a riot. I hate doing that, but it's a riot. You're right.
Okay. So someone brought to my attention that it's really difficult to have a conversation about January 6th and talk about necessarily, riots or insurrection or any of those sort of things without really talking about like what caused it. It almost is like talking about the symptoms, but not like the actual cause. And so for some people, the cause it sounded uh, I think Destiny kind of alluded to the idea that Trump was kind of like creating misinformation that led people towards feeling as if the country was being stolen from them. And do either of you two, I already know Destiny doesn't, obviously. Do either of you two feel that that was the case? Do you guys feel like the election was stolen?
I think every election's been stolen, y'all. Like, come on, like you remember the hanging Chad stuff? Like, come on, there's all that. I do not believe in the two-party system. I think it's a cult. I think that we screwed ourselves. I think that you can't depend on like this one or that one. Like that's a terrible. Like that's what you do with toddlers. You go, which color? Do you want the blue one or you want the red one? And that's what it feels like to me. It feels very insulting. And I do have to say that the QAnon stuff really ramped it up. We had all these little old ladies that were sitting at home and no one had anything to do. They're sitting there in front of their computer, freaking out, feeling helpless, finding something they can put their beliefs and their help. Like I can do something. I can talk about things. And it caught people up. And like any other, site, like Jim Jones, hate to compare it, but very similar. My parents are Q-tards themselves, man. Like, we got a real problem. Like they want to sit there and talk about, satanic pedophiles, and I'm just trying to go to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But that led up to it. I think definitely. I think that Trump did not help though. He could have helped. I think he did it more.
What about you, Hake? Do you feel that I'm sorry, but I don't feel like that was a direct answer. I'm not sure what to gather. Do you believe the election? Like, I get maybe you're saying that overall our political system might be corrupt and things. Do you believe that this specific election was directly stolen by the opposing party?
No, I don't.
Thank you. What about you, Hake?
I don't feel like I have the freedom of speech on any of these American platforms to say what I think about what happened with the election.
Wait, you absolutely do, of course. What do you mean?
I can't. I've said stuff on YouTube and I've been suspended on YouTube for saying what I think about what happened with the election.
Well, right now we're on Fanatic's platform. Fanatic, do you give him permission to say anything he wants about whether the election was stolen?
Nice knowing you.
Are you going to upload this to YouTube?
This will be uploaded to YouTube. I don't think it's a problem. You can voice whatever opinion you have. You don't have to worry about dealing with the repercussions. I would, and I'll take responsibility for that if it were to occur. Do you feel the election was stolen?
Well, truly, I don't know what exactly happened with this election, so I can't really go with any feeling either way. But we all know the reason that we support Trump. I do support Trump is because I feel that the country has been stolen from us by people who support evil. They support the open borders and degeneracy and everything else, and a lack of freedom. So, and we have a dishonest mainstream media that's all in against Trump. We have a dishonest social media establishment that's all in against Trump. So in a sense, yeah, a whole lot of stuff has been stolen. And then with the China virus, I can say that, right? That was an excuse. That was an excuse to do the mass mail-in voting so that you made it so convenient we had record voting, not just because of the hatred of Trump, and definitely not because of excitement for Biden, but because they made it convenient for every idiot to vote. And that tends to favor Democrats, low information voters.
Do you think that you should have to take a test to vote or something, or what does that mean? Like, do you
I think we should have high propensity voters, meaning people who actually love and care about the country and know what they're doing. Those people should be voting. Maybe it should be landowners, men, as opposed to.
Well, I'll push on every single one of these. So only people that love the country can vote, I mean, it sounds
That
like
would
right
be
now
nice.
you feel like the country is turning evil and degenerate. Couldn't somebody argue that you
Yes.
shouldn't be allowed to vote then?
They could argue that, and that's why we
How
need
do you?
right now. Evil people are
But
ruling
I'm saying
over
like
the
evil could arguably be in the eye of the beholder. So who's even determining who's allowed to vote at that point, right? That doesn't seem like it would be realistic. Maybe we can toss that one aside, right? Whether you love the country, there are plenty of reasons to be critical of your country, but still love it. You can think that there's a lot going wrong, but still love the country. No,
Yeah, that's what's happening. That was what Trump did.
well,
Definitely.
sure. And when you say like landowners, does this mean like if I'm renting an apartment, I'm not allowed to vote?
Yeah, that might be that might be part of the solution. Yeah.
Why? Why would somebody that owns a land versus somebody that rents should have more of a say in how the country is run?
Because they have more to lose, and the people who don't own are messing things up for the people who do own.
Wait a second.
And-
More to lose? Arguably,
But
no.
transient.
I would say that a renter generally has more to lose than an owner of a piece of property, no? Like the owner of a piece of property is losing a revenue generating asset. The person losing what they're renting is losing a place to live.
Yeah, but I mean, people are not going. I mean, people are quote unquote homeless here in this country, but they're spoiled homeless, and so like, there's no true poverty in America.
What do you mean by there's no true poverty in America? Like compared
People
to,
aren't starving.
do you think that that's the standard that we should hold ourselves to? As an American, do you feel
Maybe
like the
so.
standard for our
Yes.
poor people should be as long as you're not starving, like you're doing good?
Right, because they're enabled, as you may know. Like, homelessness has gotten out of control because it's been enabled.
Why is homelessness such a unique problem to some large U.S. cities? What's wrong with Americans in your eyes? It seems like other European countries can do a little bit more to help homeless populations up in the U.S. We won't.
Because they're being spoiled, and so they're being allowed to do that.
But why don't
Man,
we?
We need like to crack down on that stuff. It didn't used to be this problem. The more socialist we've gotten, the more giving to the poor that we've gotten, the worse that they've gotten.
And just because you're not starving doesn't mean that you're eating proper food, because there's a huge difference. When you eat well, you feel good. And there are food deserts all
their
throughout
fault.
the country.
I feel like this guy's
Granted,
gonna be really.
people can make better decisions.
boring.
Yes. But at the same time, like,
I don't
we
even know
moved
what I
from this
want. My goal
agrarian
is for this
society
conversation.
to this urban society, and now we're moving back from the urban society to the agrarian society. I've noticed people are fleeing the cities, and for good reason. But the whole point is, like, just because you're eating something doesn't mean you're eating good food. McDonald's is terrible for you. It's not food. Preservatives. I mean, as a mom, like, I wouldn't feed my kid some of the crap that people feed their children in neighborhoods where they don't have that kind of money. Anything you find at Walmart on the shelf is not going to be necessarily healthy for you. And I don't care which aisle it's in. I don't care if it's produce. It's not good for you.
Nice.
I don't understand why we, when I look at more conservative Americans, I don't understand why you have such an aversion to helping other Americans out. Why we have to pretend that every single man is an island. I feel like conservatives live in this weird world where, on one end, you recognize the importance of community more than liberals do. Conservatives will say things like, your church is important, or your families are important, or your extended family can be important. These are all things that, like, if you go to more rural communities, you don't just know your mom, dad, brother, sister. You also know your cousins, your uncles, your aunts. You know a lot of your extended family.
And you might be related to them.
Well, I'm not going there. Okay. And then, like, for your churches, like, these communities are important as well. But if you want to extend that idea just a little bit more, it's like somebody that relies on their priest or pastor for advice, or somebody that relies on a brother or sister for a place to stay. Like, these are good, worthy, hardworking Americans. But if we broaden that a little bit more to a social safety net, all of a sudden they become worthless, lazy, degenerate losers. Why?
Have you seen or dealt with the homeless people around here?
Yes, I lived in LA for 3 years, and I've done volunteer work in my city in Omaha. I've been around the United States to quite a few different places. Yeah.
And it's not the conservative areas that are suffering from this homelessness.
Yeah, because you can't really be homeless in like a rural area, right? You can't really be
Right.
homeless in a.
So I don't get why you're thinking that. I don't get why you're thinking that it's the conservatives who are leaving them out to dry.
Okay,
It's- you wouldn't be. These people want to be this way. They are.
okay, have you ever interacted with a significant number of homeless people?
Yeah.
Have you
Okay.
ever been homeless? Because I have. It's not It's not fun.
Or if you see a homeless guy, okay, do you mind me asking what city you live in? Have I seen you before? Do you live in LA? Are you in JLP Studio?
Yes.
I think I have. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So you live in LA, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been in the same areas, right? If you walk down Skid Row, or if you're at Hollywood late at night, right? Or if you go to
Yep.
if you're in these areas, and I know you've seen these people walking up down the street screaming and shouting at themselves, who are like out of their minds. Do you think these
Right.
people are like choosing to be homeless? Do you think the guy that is like not wearing any underwear, screaming at himself, walking up and down the street is too lazy to get a job? Don't you think there might be something else going on there that demands our attention?
It is something that they did to get in that position.
Do you really,
And they
if you,
need
like
to-
mental illness, you really think so?
Yeah. I mean, mental illness doesn't just happen. It's something that happens throughout their life, something that they did throughout their life to get in that position.
Even for like schizophrenia, you'd say that?
Yeah. I mean, that stuff is caused in part by drugs and by the messed up family situation that the liberals support the destruction of the family.
Okay, let's.
Okay, so let me really quickly, Hake, let me just make sure I'm just ask one question, and then we got to get back to January 6th.
Okay.
Do you believe that there are any people who have mental conditions that are not caused by their environment that might be somewhat more hereditary? Do you think that there can be any hereditary mental conditions?
Yeah, I suppose so. Like, people are born with like Down syndrome or something, but those aren't the people that you see homeless on the street.
Do you think that?
And finally, and schizophrenia. You're saying schizophrenia only comes through drugs? Can a person have schizophrenia that has never done drugs and might have had even a stable upbringing in their house? Can a person still develop schizophrenia by maybe some sort of inclination towards that? That was something hereditary, like that ran in that person's family. Could that happen?
I don't buy it. Not if you're saying stable home. I don't buy
Sure.
that. I don't
Okay.
buy that. Yeah.
All right. So
Would
we got-
you
I'm not
say?
saying it's
I'm
all
just one.
drugs,
Just one
but I'm
final
just
question.
saying that-
Would you say
yeah.
that like so a lot of homeless people disproportionately can be like vets? Do you think that veterans that are homeless are there because they're lazy? They choose to. It's their own fault.
There is. I don't believe in the choice thing, and I don't believe in some cases there's a laziness, but there.
So do you
there
think
are
U.S.
steps that-
military veterans who are homeless in the
Yes.
United States, do you think they're choosing to be lazy?
People never come home. Some people never
You're
come home
saying
from the
choosing
war.
to be lazy. That's not the only reason for homelessness. But they do things in their life because they are leading out of control lives that put themselves in that position. That's undeniable. You can even ask them that, they'd admit it.
Okay. So, we're gonna deal with a few. I had another question.
I want to go back to the
prepared.
Mr.
I
Earl
don't know
thing.
how far-
Don't let him log off. I want to talk to him before he goes to sleep,
It's
guys.
kind of crazy, but yeah, we can talk about homelessness. That's a whole other conversation. Which is crazy. Which I'm all here for, but I just want to try to keep this conversation a little bit more focused if we can. So, on January 6th, various people were attacking the Capitol. Documents detailing some individuals who were like present at the Capitol. They were labeled as unindicted co-conspirators. And if you remember, Tucker Carlson had made the statement that these were FBI agents. I'm sorry. Sorry.
The
These
FBI
were-
agent
They
wasn't
were
arrested.
FBI operatives that were organizing the attack on the Capitol. This is something that Tucker Carlson stated. Hey, were you aware of that? Did you ever hear that? How do you feel about that claim?
You know, I don't have much interest in the ongoing investigation because I see that like the January 6th committee is kind of a kangaroo court, and then the FBI are a bunch of liberals who are anti-Trump. So I haven't, and I catch Tucker now and then, but as far as the specifics of possible FBI involvement, I did watch Patriot Purge. That's Tucker's documentary on Fox Nation. But
That Elijah Schaffer was in.
yeah, Elijah Schaffer was in. That's where I heard about the protests. Part of where. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but in general, people's anger about what's going on in the country, people's anger on the left and anger on the right can be exploited for their own detriment and for the country's own detriment. And I think that's what happened with January 6th. And I've heard that Trump wanted more security, or at least talked about having more security, having and according to like AP or Reuters, an inflated idea of how many people he would be attracting. And so he threw out a number, but that never was followed up on. and so we didn't have enough security. Surprise, surprise. So, and it was odd. I don't know if Antifa showed up. Antifa usually shows up to everything. Maybe they thought that they would be outnumbered, or maybe
There
they
was
were.
one guy.
Yeah, I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if there were feds of some sort involved, but I have no idea.
Do you think it's fair to say? Do you think it's fair to say that we can't really trust any of the mainstream media's reporting on this event?
Yeah.
Do you think it's fair to say that we can't really trust anything that comes from like the White House or Congress about this event?
Yeah.
Do you think it's fair to say
you
that we
can
can't really
some
trust?
stuff.
Do you think it's fair to say that we can't really trust our intelligence agencies when it comes to this event?
Yeah.
No, you can't trust our intelligence agencies as far as we can throw them.
So, in that case, why do you know you can trust some alternative media outlets? How do you know that they're not incentivized to tell you lies or to fool with you like you would claim any of the mainstream media is? How do you determine who's honest or not if you don't trust any part of the institution?
If you ask me,
I don't necessarily even
For either
trust
of you,
those
yeah.
guys. I don't necessarily trust those guys.
You
I
say
look
that,
at the people-
hey, no, don't lie to me. Okay, hold on, wait. If we're gonna have this conversation, we're not allowed to lie to each other. So you're telling me that you're citing things like Tucker Carlson is saying. You're telling me you watched a documentary. It sounds like you
Right.
believe in a little bit of at least of what he says. So you do have at least one guy, right?
But he didn't make any statement about what actually happened. And
Well,
haven't
you're telling
heard
me
say-
now that didn't he make a statement about there being an FBI agent like organizing some of the protests?
I didn't hear that.
So, no,
He
that
said,
was
he said Ray
actually.
Epps. He pointed to Ray Epps. We saw Ray Epps, that guy, or I think it was Ray Epps.
Okay.
We saw him, but we don't know who he is. But we don't know what he is.
Okay, gotcha. Maybe I misunderstood. That's what Fanatic made it sound like he said.
Man,
That's what he
Yeah,
said, for sure.
Fanatic, you can go, or Frantic, sorry, not Fanatic.
frantic. I know.
Either one of you can
here.
answer, yeah.
What if I were to tell you guys that this hardcore bitch slap from the government? I'm not a curse, right? Whatever. Bitch. I'm gonna say it. Bitch slap. This hardcore bitch slap, right, from the Senate and everybody else, and whoever's. I mean, obviously, power is gonna power. That's what they do. Haters gonna hate. Power's gonna power. Like, I mean, at this point, I just call them all lizard people because, like, for lack of a better word, like they suck. I don't believe in actual lizard people, but like these people, they act like it. It's like they don't have any empathy. And I'm gonna tell you right now. What if I were to tell you that this whole thing, this major investigation, this back and forth, the woman that they went and raided her house in Alaska, what if I were to tell you it's because Nancy Pelosi's laptop went missing and they can't find it? And we saw what happened with Hunter Biden's laptop. So that would make a lot of sense why they're dragging everybody in and asking everybody questions. I had two friends of mine that were brought in front of the FBI, had their phones taken, were dressed down. And they're libertarian I'm a constitutional existentialist for lack of there is no party that fits me. I am politically homeless right now. But my friend who is a libertarian who happened to be there, he was just there because I was like, he wanted to check it out. Got dragged in, put in jail. I was going to spend 30 days. The FBI questioned him, put him in a jail cell for 48 hours. Did not let him make a phone call. Took his phone for 2 weeks. Went through his whole phone, and he literally was just there for like 5 seconds, walked in the building and was like, I think I should leave. So, I mean, that happened. They dressed everybody down. They dragged in every single person they could find.
I thought they did find the laptop. I'm not sure.
Haven't found the laptop yet, no. No, that's why they raided that woman's house in Alaska that wasn't even there. She just happened to have the same name as someone who was there.
I guess here's like here's kind of my concern, I guess, I guess this is for both of you. Is it seems like some people are so keen to throw under the bus every single institution that most people would say, we get truthful statements from. Most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. So what I don't understand is why, if all of these institutions can conspire together to tell lies and they're all incentivized to do things that are horrible and evil, why would you not assume that people in the alternative media or people that post stuff on Facebook or Instagram wouldn't have the same incentives to tell other lies? Like, they get paid a lot of like Tim Pool makes a lot of money, Alex Jones makes a lot of money. These types of independent alternative media figures, they make a lot of money telling you a story that is contrary to the official narrative. What like mental checks do you do to make sure, like, am I being taken for a ride with these guys as well, or what? How do you choose who to trust?
First of all, everyone needs to know, if you go to the CIA website, CIA.gov, you go to the bottom of the page, there's a link there that says FOIA, and you click on that, and you can Freedom of Information search anything that's happened in the past. And when you go and you look at the stuff that's happened in the past, you've got everything from, the Jekyll Island meeting to Operation Popeye, where they were messing with the weather in Vietnam. You've got the Gulf of Tonkin incident. By the way, that was Jim Morrison's dad. By the way, I don't know if you guys knew that. How interesting is that, Admiral Morrison? But you go and you look at all these documents and you start figuring out, like, okay, this is an organization I can trust. This is an organization I can't trust. There's other, like the Library of Congress is a great place to look. When you look at history, you can tell what's happening now. You can tell who to trust, and you get a sense for it because you read enough. If you read enough, and I read both sides of the aisle. Now, granted, I want to chew glass sometimes when I read what these pay-per-click journalists that have zero integrity or any concern about how it affects the people that they're putting out journalism for. I want to chew glass, but I read it because it's important to see all sides, because I might catch something from their article that I won't catch from the other side. It's important to read both sides. I don't trust Fox News. I don't trust the Daily Wire. I don't trust anybody. You know who I trust? I trust me. And I trust my sense of like digging into everything. And if I see it all and I put it all together, I go, well, this tracks and this doesn't. And this, and you just got to weed through it. And it sucks because it's not put in an easy, take your pill, watch your TV, TV dinner style journalism. It's not made easy. It's something you have to spend the time and do the research and like read. And it takes up a lot of time. But here's the thing. Nobody can lie to me. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that they will click on a title and they'll believe it. And they're incentivized to do so. And they will write the article incentivized to do so.
How do you, I'm curious, so like, how do you know?
If everyone does what you're, really quickly, if everyone does if someone does all of the researching and the reading that you've done and they've come to a different conclusion, then that means that now the entire truth will always be incredibly subjective, right?
Truth is always subjective, isn't it?
No.
There's history, her story, and the truth. I just threw my pen. There's his story, her story, and the truth. And that's always been true.
Well, but there is some...
Group of people that are all the same place, all saw the same thing, all witnesses. They separate them, and they take their story individually. And the stories don't even match it because they just saw that.
There should be some underlying fact of the matter of something that truly did happen, though. No, right?
Yep. I don't really get my info from these conservative outlets that much. I mostly read CNN, Morning Brew, The Skim every morning. Those are mainstream outlets that are referencing like the far left Reuters, AP, New York Slimes, and all that stuff. I read those, but I just read them with a grain of salt. And I suppose that money influences the right, just as money influences the left. But it's not just money; it's ideology, and it's not really a conspiracy. It's a culture of people are corrupt. They have the reason that the left and the right don't see eye to eye is not because of money as much as
planned.
Corruption of the heart.
Well,
so
let's
they don't see clearly.
Well, let's think of something more specific.
So these institutions are all against Trump. They were plainly against Trump. The
do you think,
intelligence agencies?
What would it take to convince you that maybe a lot of people are against Trump because he genuinely was a pretty bad person and had a lot of pretty horrible ideas? Like, what is there anything that could ever convince you of that?
It could. I can be convinced that some people actually believe that. But in general, people hate him because he told the truth, not because he was a bad person.
So if we look at something in particular, we'll look at one truth claim, a big thing that is central to the topic of this conversation, which was whether or not January 6th was caused by misinformation or not, right? Was the election stolen? So when Trump is making a claim that it was, but we can't find any proof of that anywhere, how do you decide if that claim is true or not? Like, what path do you walk to figure out if what somebody said is true or false? Where do you go for information? How do you figure that out?
I'm leaving that as a whole I don't know.
But is that truly how you function?
How does that,
as far as the election, as far as the election itself, I don't know. I don't have.
So you've never been on, if I were to go look through Hake Report episodes, you're never saying something about how the Democrats stole the election or how there was voter fraud?
I'll say voter shenanigans.
What does voter shenanigans mean?
Fraud.
Fraud. Okay, so then you do believe there was some level, maybe not.
I think that there must have been some level of fraud, but I don't know how consequential it was. But because I already know that the country is corrupt, so people are so corrupt that they'll vote for evil against good. So I'm just saying I really don't know. But because there's a lot of ways to steal a country without just cheating. And the point of cheating is to get away with it. So to not leave evidence. And they, as you know, they got rid of the ways to find the evidence, like the signature checks and things like that. So there's a whole lot going on.
Do you support Trump as being a pretty good man when it comes to being a leader?
Yeah.
Why was he so well, do you agree that I'm leading you a little bit, but do you agree that one of the hallmarks
he's still taking on Rick in your mind, darling, so you must have done something.
Wait, was that to me or to him?
To you, Destiny.
Oh.
He's not even president anymore. Like,
well, we're talking about January 6th, which is why we're talking about Trump, right? So, and then a lot of people are still looking
in the last days.
So do you know it to be misinformation, Destiny?
I believe it to be misinformation, yeah, that the election was stolen.
But you don't know for sure that is misinformation.
Well, that's a much deeper philosophical question. But like I would be, if I was a betting man, I would put a lot of money with big odds that it wasn't stolen, of course.
What do you how do you get your information? And like, because if anything, I always want to hear what other people have to say, and I always want to learn from other people. So if you've got a way to do it that's different than mine, I'm willing to listen and willing to glean information from that. How do you figure out what is the truth? What steps do you go through to fact check the information that you believe in your heart to be honest?
So I think that right now, we live in a media environment where there is a lot of incentivization to discover fraudulent stories or reporting on the other side. So any mainstream publication that's publishing a story, I'll typically read that. And if none of the other big publications are trying to call them out or catch them out on something, then I'll generally believe what's being printed. Now, if there is alternative,
like the Miami Herald, like the Miami Herald and the Epstein story stuff, like that's it. That's a good example.
I don't know as much about the Miami Herald, but like, I'll read like reporting from Fox News or CNN or the New York Times or AP or Reuters or Al Jazeera or the BBC. Like, most of the big publications, mainstream publications, I'll read and probably be like, yeah, this is probably true. And if no one else is calling them out or saying anything is wrong, if all of the mainstream media is missing something and alternative media are making claims, then I'll try to find like, okay, well, what is their evidence for these claims, and then I'll look at that.
But as we all know, those mainstream sources
90% of the media is owned by 5 companies. 90% of the media.
They're corrupt.
So just because 90% of the media is owned by 5 companies doesn't mean that every single individual reporter is owned by those companies, right?
No, but they have to follow rules like you can't say illegal alien. You have to pretend a transgender is the pronoun that they want to be. It's a culture
so all of
going
these
along
things
with
are
bring them into this.
All of these things are not all similar to one another, but like generally journalists are
But that's what I mean by corrupt.
Sure, but journalists are one of the big group of people where if they feel like something is being pushed that is unfair to one of them, they'll all get together on Twitter and start making a big stink about things. Like, typically journalists will do that.
Yep.
I guess my issue is that like I feel like I can navigate the world pretty well. I'll read an article. I'll use the most inflammatory example. I'll say CNN. Okay. I'll read an article by CNN that does some reporting, and if nobody else is like contradicting the facts of the matter, now sometimes I'll contradict an interpretation, but the fact of the matter, then I'll probably believe this is a true fact of the matter, and then maybe I'll read a few different sources or listen to a few different pundits to get what an interpretation might be. Right. So if like it seems like we all agree, when I say we all the mainstream media will agree on the facts of the matter around Trump's presidency generally, but we might disagree on some of the interpretations. So for instance, there is a fact of the matter that Trump tried to build a wall on the border, and then the interpretation of, well, was it to defend the country from foreign invaders, or was it because he's racist? That would be like an op-ed, or like a pundit might give me that, which is a little bit not as much something I'm concerned with. But my issue right now is we don't have disagreements about opinions or interpretations of events. We have disagreements on facts of the matter, which should be easier to verify. And my problem is when I run into a lot of people that have a mistrust for the mainstream media, it doesn't seem like they have some sort of system to validate information other than just what you said, Missy, is like intuition.
That's why I asked you. I was like, please tell me how you validate information, because God knows we're all looking for a way. I mean, this goes back so far, and it's not just America; it's the whole damn world. Like, where you can't get good information. They're bought, they're paid for, brought to you by Pfizer. You know, like we don't know what the truth is. We just have to depend on these people, these talking heads that read off a monitor, and be like, I don't think, know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think we do have to. I don't think we always.
A good form.
I don't think we always have to trust them. I think that there is some like built-in validation in the system. So for instance, if we're going to talk about a claim that Pfizer makes, there is a lot of incentive on other sides for Pfizer to be wrong. Other pharmaceuticals want them to be wrong because they don't want them to beat them to the punch.
We're not here to talk about Pfizer.
Well,
We're here to
I'm
talk
just,
about
I'm just saying for this particular thing, right? There are other companies that are incentivized to find errors in anything Pfizer says, and there are other countries that are incentivized. So, like, if Johnson and Johnson has every incentive in the world to reveal if Pfizer's vaccine is bogus, or if all the American vaccines are bogus or something weird is happening, Russia or China would have a lot of incentive to step in and say something. So, one thing I'll look at is if a fact of the matter is being reported, and other people would be incentivized to speak out against it, but they're not. It's probably true. Otherwise, I don't know why somebody else wouldn't be saying something. Yeah.
It must be so nice living in a world where you can trust what you read from any of these assholes. Like that must be so comforting because I don't trust any of them.
I disagree. Actually, I think your world. I think you're.
I don't trust government. I don't trust. I trust like local politicians that I vote for, that I work with, that I know. I trust what I know. I trust people that I meet. I trust what I can put a handshake to.
Yeah.
I trust that.
So I feel like your world is way easier to live in because every now and then I'll read a story that might.
I'm exhausted.
I don't think so.
All it is
I think
read.
it's exciting. I think it's exhilarating when you feel like you're the only one with the answers or your intuition is the guiding light. I think it means that you never have to confront an uncomfortable truth because if something is uncomfortable, you can always say,
"You are a Southern mother." That was such a jellyfish, nice.
It was very nice. It was very nicely done. I respect
You sound like
it.
my mama. You will be best friends. Because 5 minutes later, I'm like, what did he just?
Sure.
Wait, what?
Very
well done.
There might
sir.
be a time.
Southern mother.
There might be a time where I read a story and I have to confront a truth that I don't like. So, for instance, not to
Do you listen to yourself?
I've
let him.
Yeah, I've been here for a long
Missy,
time.
let him
Myself,
finish.
right?
Let him finish,
so to not trigger fanatic here, there's a lot of stuff about BLM that I've read that, in retrospect, as I read more and more, it's like, okay, this is pretty hard to read. The Michael Brown story is not exactly what I thought it was initially, or the Jacob Blake story is not exactly what I thought it was initially. Right? There would be something where I read it and it's like, man, that sucks. This is a difficult thing to confront, and I'm reading this and I have to accept that. But when I talk to people that don't trust any of the mainstream institutions, their lives seem so much more fun and exciting because instead of ever having to confront uncomfortable information, they get to live in the exciting world where everything is a conspiracy, everything is rigged against them. They're the only ones that have the answer. They can use their intuition to figure everything out, and they don't ever really have to confront an uncomfortable truth that they might be incorrect about something, or some figure that they worship or idol that they have might also be incorrect about something. I'm curious if you can give me an example. Maybe I could be incorrect, but do you feel like there's some truth that you discovered in the media recently that was like, oh man, I was incorrect about something and I needed to revise my opinion on this, or something that made you uncomfortable? Where it's like, I'm curious, what would be an example of that?
Just told you that I had to say out loud, which would really upset my Southern mother, that it's called a riot. Like I had to say it was a riot. I can't deny, culpability to the law. The legal precedent takes place over my personal beliefs or my family's beliefs or anybody thinks about me. I like being wrong because when I'm wrong, it means that I'm not like them. I'm not someone that can admit that I made a mistake. And I'll be the first one to tell you, like, I screwed up, that I made a mistake. And that's just being a good person. And at the end of the day, like, I don't see the media doing that publicly and often. And, honestly, it just makes me sad because I feel like the American people deserve that. We deserve a better system. I don't know what that system is. It's future science. But I think that we definitely can all agree that there has to be a better way to present information to the public so we can guarantee it's not bought and paid for by somebody. That would be ideal.
What about you, Hake? What about Hake? Is there any time where you've had to change your mind on a fact recently where you're like, oh, I was wrong about this particular thing?
Yeah, like when I don't know what exactly I thought about when Trump wanted the 10,000 National Guard troops over in the Capitol before the January 6th mostly peaceful protest, part of which turned into a riot. But I saw this fact check on Twitter that said Trump did not actually submit for 10,000 troops officially, and that the afternoon of January 6th, Nancy Pelosi says that she would have welcomed that, or she would welcome that. So I had to revise my, I guess I had an assumption that Trump had submitted or something like that officially. I don't know. So that's why I revised and made it more nuanced, that Trump made an offhand remark that he would like 10,000 troops, when in which is the reality, according to the media,
Why? So why did you trust the media on this report when you think they're willing to lie about so much else? What? Maybe they're lying about this particular thing, and Trump did request
They
it.
might be. They might be.
Well, so then you don't really believe it. Then you just.
No, I just say what's according to what they are saying. That's all we really have to go on.
Well, but I'm asking you about like what you believe, not telling me what a media outlet said that you disagree with.
So I believe that Trump wanted the 10,000 troops. Like he made a comment.
That's not a. So what I'm curious about is like, is there an example of like something that I get nervous about is that, like, if I believe the same thing for a long time and I've never contradicted that opinion, I get worried. It's like, is this something that I believe that's actually true, or am I just kind of like lost in a big circle jerk where I'm just like listening to people that I agree with, right? So I'm asking, like, is there an example?
You said it.
But I don't just listen to people I agree with. I mean, I'm reading from the mainstream sources, and
Yeah, but you're telling me you can't trust any of them. So what good is that? It sounds like you're reading them for content to farm for your show, not to get any kind of information, or like to see what the media talking points are, but not like what's actually the fact of the matter. Like if the FBI came out and released...
That's generally where I get my facts.
From the mainstream media?
Yeah.
Then why do you believe the election was stolen or fraudulent?
Because I've seen them lying. I see the mainstream media lying about
Well, but
Trump.
like if we look at all the institutions that were responsible for checking the election, all of them unanimously say it wasn't stolen. The FBI, the DOJ, other intelligence agencies, the federal courts.
And those are all agencies that have been kind of anti-Trump. I mean,
the courts that have Trump's own appointees are anti-Trump?
Many of them are. I mean, many of them didn't even just dismissed it and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of pressure. Trump can't protect them. He's one man.
They're federal judges. You think they're going to be, if they give a bad ruling, I mean, they're just gone? Like,
the point is, I don't know what you think that I believe that's so unreasonable.
It's a question of like, it's a question of like,
really quickly. Do you believe?
Or that's so divorced from reality.
Okay, but you were like earlier. It did sound like you were saying that you did believe that there was fraud within the election. And so do you believe if that fraud wasn't there, that Donald Trump would have won the election?
I have no idea. I don't know.
You have no idea whatsoever?
No,
okay.
Nor do any of us, really.
Okay. Do you believe that to be the case?
I don't believe stuff without knowing.
Okay. So
wait, push on that. Wait. You can't know anything then, right? Like, you don't know if I'm real. I could be a Google AI. What do you believe to be the case, though?
And that would...
There's plenty of things that you obviously believe that you don't know for sure, right? Like we take plenty of things for granted. I'm pretty sure you're not a physicist, right? You've never been to space, but you believe outer space is real.
Well, hold on. We don't know about that.
Why don't you accept that I say I don't know what happened with the election?
Because you don't act like you don't know. You act like you do have a certain belief in a direction. And I'm curious
what way am I acting that makes you think that? What have I said or done that makes you think that I act that?
Well, you said earlier that you believe that there was a fraudulent election. You said that earlier. Now maybe I misheard you or maybe you misspoke, but you did say that.
Well, you said it. No, you didn't hear it. You didn't mishear him.
Well, I'm trying to be polite.
Oh, okay.
You did say that though, right?
I mean, in general, people have been concerned about fraud, so I have to assume that there is
being concerned about fraud is fundamentally different than saying fraud happened or you believe fraud happened.
And I'm plainly saying I don't know.
But what do you believe?
No.
I don't know is a cop out, right?
No, it's not a cop out because I don't know.
But what do you believe? How do you act?
I act as though you can't trust people. You can't trust elections that are not secure.
Okay, so at the very least, I can commit you to a position that you're undecided on if there was election fraud or not. You don't know. You truly have no idea.
Free and fair election. Yeah.
Why can you say it's not a free and fair election? What does that mean?
Because they opened it up for every idiot to vote, and that's
how our elections work. Everybody is supposed to be able to vote, assuming you're of age and you're not a felon.
And they have open borders. That's not country.
Open borders has nothing to do with voting.
Yes, it does. They have anchor babies being born, and they're being called citizens for generations.
Let me make a point.
That's not an integrity for the country. It's much less integrity for an election.
Go ahead, Missy, and then after that we'll move to straight to the point really quick.
I think one of the best things about the concept of illegal immigration is like the Democrats are like pushing it, right, and the Republicans are like trying to go against it. But at the end of the day, like immigrants tend to become Republicans. So it's kind of a good joke when you think about it. Like the Democrats are like, we got to bring them in. The Republicans are going to get them out. And they're all going to end up being, people that don't trust the government, people that don't want to trust the banks, people that are trying to build up their family, people that don't want to pay taxes, people that are going to start businesses. Like, we're talking about like case people don't appreciate abortion because they're Catholic background, especially people from Mexico, Central America. They're future Republicans, and you got to admit, at least that's a little bit funny.
Okay, so just to be really clear, Hake, do you believe that the claim that the election was stolen, do you believe that that had something to do with the Capitol 6 riot?
Yes, that had something to do with it. And I don't see how you can blame Trump for that only because
he's the one that pushed it, right?
He's not the only one who pushed it.
He's the primary push. He was the biggest pusher of it.
He's the president. But if you look at it,
he was the reason everyone was there.
No, well, yeah, but people wanted the. It's because he loves the country that they wanted him to be president, and they had been concerned about voter fraud for decades. So it's not like this is something brand new that Trump just trotted out and they believed it. They've been seeing issues in the mainstream media and in there's been voter integrity groups and Tea Party groups audited by the IRS under Obama with the IRS Tea Party targeting scandal that included some voter integrity groups. So
Bush-Gore.
It just makes people suspicious. We have half the electorate, or a third maybe of the electorate, or maybe more, that's very suspicious of our elections. So
yeah, but where does that suspicion?
Because
where does that suspicion come from? The
from
suspicion is driven by
government, dishonest media.
Yes, dishonest government. Trump was the government.
No, he's not the government. He's one man against the government.
No, he wasn't against the government. He was a Republican that was an elected leader.
The government was against him.
No, he was.
Yes, it was.
How is the president of the United States is the government? He's the president. He's president.
Part of the government. He's one man in the government.
He's the head of one of our three branches. How can you say he's not the government? Like, he is
so-called
absolutely
head.
What?
You had most of the executive branch against him. Know.
But isn't that his fault?
You can blame maybe some of that on him. Yeah, maybe.
Well, how could you blame it? They're his appointees.
No, not all of them. Many of them, probably most of them, are not his appointees.
But he appointed them. Wait, what do you mean by that? They were literally people that he appointed.
He appointed many, and you have the whole bureaucracies that are entrenched. You can't
wait, hold on. Wait. No, there is no bureaucracy when it comes to him appointing heads of these agencies. It's just his decision.
I know, but you're acting like the executive branch wasn't against him, and they clearly were.
You know what? I will take the L on this because I just might not know. Okay, because my history is bad and my government understanding is bad. My understanding is that the president of the United States, on his own, chooses every single member of his cabinet, and the president himself has the ability to appoint heads to every single federal institution or executive institution. Am I wrong on that, or is there some other processor that I don't understand? Wait. I need you to explain that to me. Am I missing a part there?
It's very innocent and naive.
Okay,
because
so you're telling me that there are members,
entrenched government employees who are in the so-called intelligence agencies.
Wait,
who are undermining
they can't
Trump.
How can they undermine a Trump cabinet pick?
The Trump cabinet picks were weak too. It's hard to find good employees, as you may know.
Whose fault is that, though? When you're the CEO of a company,
you can blame Trump a little.
A lot. They're his picks. I'll blame it 100%. They're his picks. He says that he wants the government to run like a business, and he's a CEO. I'm the leader of my company. If something goes wrong, ultimately it falls on me. I can't say, "Oh, well, sorry, I just kept hiring bad employees." Right? That's not why. Why do we say
this is not just bad employees? And you're acting like you really don't believe that there are entrenched bureaucracies and the whole intelligence agencies.
Trump
for example,
said that he was going to run the government like a company. He said that he was going to be in control.
That
he was the deal maker. Yeah.
A cabinet head is not necessarily running the whole portion under him.
So do you feel like cabinet head appointees?
And I'll add.
Wait, just a second. Do you feel like cabinet head appointees or like head appointees of agencies? Do you feel like those people are powerless? If you feel like all of the people that are underneath them were against them, and so they were powerless?
The cabinet people are pretty weak. I mean, he wasn't even allowed to appoint solid guys. He had that guy, General Flynn, ousted from underneath him by a hit job by the intelligence agencies barely before he was even able to serve a couple of weeks. So, yeah, you have.
Wait, how is it a hit job when Flynn lied? Flynn just lied to the FBI. How is it a hit job?
The FBI lied.
It doesn't matter. You can't lie to a federal agent. You should.
But he didn't.
He did lie. He absolutely lied. What do you mean?
No, you're acting like he lied. The FBI
wait.
comes up with lying. He shouldn't have even talked to them.
He shouldn't have, but he did. And that excuse wouldn't work for any other U.S. citizen. If I said, "Oh fuck, I shouldn't talk to the FBI," but I did and I lied, then you're gonna get. Of course,
because we have a corrupt, lying FBI that's ousting whoever they want to oust.
Wait, but
okay, hold on, just a second.
Why you don't talk to
you're making a statement that the FBI lied. Destiny made the statement that Flynn lied. So we just need to address one statement first, and then we'll go to whether or not the FBI lies. Okay? Did Flynn lie about anything?
I don't know.
Wait, okay. My understanding is that Flynn was approached by 2 FBI agents, and they had a conversation with him about conversations that he had with any sort of Russian parties, and Flynn misrepresented or hid. He said explicitly he did not have any conversations with any Russian parties when that was not the case. And I thought that was why Flint fell. That's my understanding of that. Now, if you disagree with that, we can go look up news articles or Wikipedia or whatever. But that's my understanding of what happened.
I don't know or truly even care about the specifics of it.
Well, but
I know that the FBI had changed in an email. They tricked him, and it was all kinds of stuff.
They tricked him to lie about whether or not he talked to somebody?
And they themselves lied in this whole situation. If you want to go look into it, you can. But we all know that the FBI are a bunch of liberals who don't even like Trump.
How was Comey, who was a Republican his entire life,
a rhino?
Sir, how is he a rhino? Because he didn't like Trump?
He's a complete rhino. His wife and daughters went to the Women's March. Are you kidding me?
How does he standing for women's rights? There are a lot of Republicans. There were a lot of Republicans that hated Trump
for
initially.
Abortion. That was primarily a Planned Parenthood abortion
Trump literally
march.
Came in. One of the big stances that he had that people were upset about him was that he was against defunding Planned Parenthood and stuff in the early days when he was running in the primaries.
But that's
Trump has been a liberal his whole life. He's gone to the Hillary Clinton fucking Bill Clinton wedding and everything.
I know.
Well, then how do you think that Trump isn't a rhino?
Men repent. Because Trump was for what's right. Are you laughing?
No, it's just